Does it work? Hey, it's on. All right, cool. Well, all right. So where was I? There's so much that I need to get off my chest. And it's not even really personal stuff. It's just stuff I'm seeing out there in the world. Like, holy crap, guys. If you've been paying any attention to the world, to what's going on out there in the world, it's insane, right? I mean, I tend to sequester myself pretty hard from the news and sort of political stuff because I don't think it's healthy. But for one reason or another, I found myself sort of drawn back into it, and I'm listening to news, and I'm, watching commentary, and I'm seeing things that people are saying out there, and I have friends who are much more active and engaged in this sort of thing than I am, and so some of them mention this stuff to me, and it's just kind of, it's been that I've found my way into this world again that I spent so long trying to sequester myself from. And as a result of that, I've just been absolutely horrified by the way the world seems to be going nowadays. I mean, really, everybody is insane. What is wrong with you people? Why is everybody so pissed off? I mean, everybody. Left, right, center, everybody's so pissed off. I'm pissed off. Why am I pissed off? I feel like the political climate in this country has really gone downhill. It's been ugly, especially for the last couple of years. I remember, the first time I really started paying attention to politics, I was probably a teenager. So I remember the last few years of the George W. Bush presidency. I remember the first Obama election, because I was 18 that year, though I missed voting in the election by like a few days because I turned 18 afterwards. And then I remember the controversy that came after that, and it just seems like the last 2 or 3 years, things have just absolutely taken a turn, and it's insane to me. I mean, look, maybe it's good to start from sort of first principles here. All right, I consider myself a very ardent centrist. I am a very open-minded person. I make my living listening to people and asking them questions and then trying to figure out what's going on with them and trying to help and sort of work with them in their own perspective to keep them safe. I'm a crisis worker. And it's not like I'm, some magic guru or I'm some super wise person, but I think I have some experience in talking to people who are in some really, difficult spots and trying to work with people who have very different worldviews from myself and trying to get inside their head, to stand in their shoes for a minute and see if we can figure out a way to meet on some common middle ground. So I've made a living doing that, and I'm pretty decent at my job. I won't claim that I'm, some spectacular guy, but I guess what I'm saying is I pride myself on being able to hear people out and listen to them and really listen to them. And I try really hard to listen to them. And that's what I think is missing nowadays. There's this political climate that we're in right now. It doesn't seem like anyone is listening to anyone else. No one has any idea what anybody else is saying. And I watch conversations, I watch these debates between really conservative people and really liberal people, and it's like they're talking past each other. One person will say something, and then the other person will just respond to the point they think they heard, and then the first person will just continue saying whatever it was they were trying to say in the first place, and no one is bothering to stop and just say, wait a minute. If we're disagreeing, then it seems like we haven't come to common ground yet. And maybe instead of trying to browbeat you into seeing the world the way I see it, maybe I should try to understand your perspective first, and I should try to at least see how you got there, so that then I can restate my argument. It's kind of a it's a principle I learned from when I used to be married. I went to some marriage therapy for a little while, and it was a counselor there who taught me this as a method of conflict resolution. It's basically when you're debating with someone or when you're arguing with somebody, you make a rule where you say, I am not allowed to rebut your argument until I've restated your argument back to you in a way that you find satisfactory. And that's a lot harder to do than you think it is. Just try it. Try it once. Find yourself in an argument, stop and try that. And you will see how mind-bending and infuriating it is, because, you immediately have this issue of not only am I not seeing the world the way that you're seeing it, I'm not seeing it the way you're seeing it, and it's making me very angry that you don't see it the way I see it. So now I have to set aside my emotion of anger for the moment. I have to try and reframe my worldview from your perspective, and because we've already set up this antagonistic relationship, now I have to try and get you to agree with me. It's a lot harder than you think. So where am I going with this? I'm just kind of rambling at this point. No one's listening. No one wants to hear what anyone else has to say anymore, and it's driving me insane. I don't know what to make of it. It's like, seriously, just stop for the moment. Just stop for one moment. And I guarantee you, if you're watching this and you're one of those people, you're looking at me and you're like, no, you don't understand. They're not listening to me. I'm right. And you don't understand how much. No, if you feel that bubbling up inside of you, you feel that rage, or if you're thinking about that one person that you had a conversation with a few days ago, and you're running it through in your mind, and you're like, yeah, I really want them to hear what this, I want them to hear this point, and I'm going to go and I'm going to tell them, hey, you got to say to me what I said to you, but you got to say it in a way that makes it, look, if you're thinking that, stop, because you're the problem. It's you. It is you. It's not anyone else, it's you. You're being an asshole, and you need to stop it. Just stop. For the love of God, everybody, stop. We have lost the art of communication. We have lost it. It's gone. And I very squarely place the blame on the shoulders of social media. I think social media is an absolute cancer. It's a plague on society. We didn't know what it was when it was a thing that was first getting started. We had no idea. The guy who invented social media, and, for me, my first encounter with social media would have been 2005, I think. MySpace, and the very early start of Facebook when you needed a college email to join, like a .edu email. And so I had both of those, real early on. I'm pretty sure MySpace got started before 2005, but that's when I got one. I was 15. But we had no idea what social media was going to be. It's like Henry Ford when he figured out a really good way to automate vehicle production. He didn't know what was going to happen. If you took Henry Ford on the day that he thought up the idea of an assembly line, and you picked him up and you stuck him on the planet right now, and you showed him the way that his invention and the car and all these other things have so radically transformed the function of modern society, it would blow his mind. He would have no idea. He wouldn't even know what to do. He'd look at this and he'd be like, you've done something incredible with this little humble invention that I came up with. I'm sure he had some grand ideas, but nothing like this, right? I drove a car last summer from Yellowstone National Park to Flagstaff, Arizona. I did it in one day. And I did it on a highway that was just absolutely packed with other cars. Thousands and thousands and thousands of people, rushing by me doing the same damn thing I was doing. It's just a function of society now. It's a necessary thing. It's a rite of passage. Right? So when Henry Ford invented that assembly line and figured out a way to make cars really accessible, he had no idea what he was doing. Same thing happened with social media. We created this thing, just a bunch of human beings, a bunch of monkeys on a planet. Somehow we came up with this way of communicating with each other at the speed of, I don't know, I guess at the speed of light. Well, at the speed of the internet. And we had no idea what it was going to do. But now we're seeing the effects, right? This is like the first interstate, right? We're right there. We're right on the cusp of plunging into this entirely new structure of society, and it's a problem. It's a big, big problem. It's very dangerous. And I'll tell you exactly why. Sorry, I keep doing that. I'll tell you exactly why it's dangerous. Okay, here's why it's dangerous. Think about the last time you had a conversation with somebody. Okay? Or maybe turn this video off and go have a conversation with somebody. Just sit down across the table from them and look at them and tell them a story about your day. But while you do that, look at yourself and pay attention to what you're doing and pay attention to what you're thinking about. Okay? Here's the thing. Or, you can even just look at me and just look at the way that I'm doing this. When I'm speaking, I'm saying words, right? I'm producing some sounds and I'm making words that are coming through a speaker and you're hearing them. Or the person you're speaking to is hearing the words that you're thinking. So somewhere in your mind, you're generating an idea, you're figuring out a way to put that into words, and then you're sending it out. But it's not just words that you're sending out. You're not just doing words. I'm also using things like the tone of my voice, the frequency of my pauses, the emphasis of certain words in a sentence, the order of the words in a sentence. All of those things, I'm doing this subconsciously. I'm not sitting here thinking, okay, now I'm going to say this word a little bit higher and this word a little bit lower. And you don't do that. You can't do that, right? And if you meet somebody who's like rehearsed something that they've wanted to say to you, you can tell it's been rehearsed, right? Because it sounds like they're reading it out loud. So you can tell the difference between genuine speech or something that's just generated, right? And there's that, it's because of that subconscious flow that you have in your mind. You have this ability to do that, right? And the reason you do that is because it's putting subtext to the idea. But I'm not just using the tone of my voice. I'm not just using pauses. I'm not just using word selection or any of that other stuff. I'm also using body language, right? So right now I'm really animated. I'm leaning forward. I'm using my hands to gesture. I'm looking into my own eyes on the camera, which kind of looks like I'm looking off camera, but I'm looking into the camera, which kind of looks like I'm looking into your eyes, right? I've got my brow furrowed a little bit because this is very important to me, and I'm really intense about this. Like, this is super interesting, and it's something I think you need to know. So there's body language involved in this. My entire body is involved in communicating an idea from me to you. Now think about all of that. Now here's the other side of the conversation, right? While I'm doing this, if I'm having a conversation with somebody else, I'm also watching them, right? Because a good conversation, you're looking at the other person you're talking to, at least sometimes. You're not staring them down, but you are looking at them. You're paying attention to what they're doing. And while you are conveying your ideas, you're watching their reaction. You're watching the corners of their eyes for the micro expressions. You're watching the corner of their mouth to see if they're smiling or frowning. You're looking for teeth. You're looking for laughter. You're looking for tears. You're looking for some kind of reaction. And based on the feedback that they're giving you, you are going to modulate and change the tone of voice that you're using. You're going to change your body language, your word selection. You're going to veer into different topics. There's this constant back and forth between you and the other person. That's how a conversation works. It's this tremendous ocean of communication, verbal and nonverbal, that just gets carried back and forth. And we do it automatically. We don't think about it. You don't have to think about it. And there's so much to it. And here's the problem. With social media, all of that is stripped away. It's all gone. The only thing you have left are words. You have the words that I generate in my mind. I type them out onto a screen and post them somewhere like Facebook or Twitter or whatever else. I don't have a Twitter because I think Twitter is terrible. So, and there's two things to that. Number one, and really the worst thing is, well, this isn't the worst thing, but the first thing that comes up is immediately I've stripped away 70, 80, maybe 90% of what I'm actually trying to say. It's all gone. All I have are the words. Just this little tiny portion of the thing I'm actually trying to communicate is left. Okay, and so that's there, and that's it. You don't get to see my face unless you see like an avatar of, let's just say me making a goofy face, or whatever. And so you're going to automatically look at the avatar and you're going to try to interpret that you're going to try and interpret the thing I said in context of the avatar. That's just a thing you kind of do because you're looking for something else. Your brain is like, there's got to be more here. There's more going on, but it's not. There's nothing else there. So what else is there? Well, the only thing that's left is for you to read it. And because there's no context coming to you from me, you generate it yourself. You create it in your own mind. And the problem is that you make it out of your own emotional state at the time you read it. You're just generating this idea of what I said. You're taking the 10% little piece that I gave you, and you're generating the other 90% with your imagination. That's a problem, right? If I wanted to tell you something like, let's think of a 10-word warning. Let's say, hey, don't go in there. There's a crocodile. He's hungry. Okay, so 10 words I just gave you. Hey, don't go in there. There's a crocodile. He's hungry. All of those words are fairly important. Some are maybe more important than others. Let's take away 90% of them. What do you get? Hey. Well, there's a whole hell of a lot that's missing from that sentence. Maybe we can take away the other words and we can just say crocodile, or hungry, or don't, right? So there's a problem. There's a real problem with stripping away all this communication. And then you have to generate the rest of it. So if I just give you the word hey and I say give me 9 other words, you're going to come up with a totally different sentence. You're going to come up with a totally different idea. But you're going to think that's what I wanted. Now here's the other problem. It's anonymized, right? So I put my idea out there, you receive it, and then you generate the idea of what you actually think I said. And you don't get the feedback from me that maybe you interpreted it wrong. You're just going to look at me and you're going to be like, well, this son of a bitch, he just said something stupid, so I'm going to whack him over the head. That's that primordial sort of lizard brain response that you get as a human being. That's what happens. And that's a problem, right? Because then you want to fire back, and you're going to do it because the consequences are very minimal. I can't punch you in the face through your computer screen, and you can't punch me in the face through my computer screen. So the threat of physical interaction is completely gone. The idea that, you could punish me for something is well, there's the idea that you could punish me for saying something and get away with it, and you don't have to worry about me hurting you. And the same goes for me. I don't have to worry about pissing you off. I can just do it and get away with it. So that's the problem. That's where Twitter mobs come from, right? You get 1 million people who are all angry at one faceless person who typed a 140-character sentence, or what is it now, 280 or something stupid like that, sentence, and there are no consequences for acting out towards that person. And so somebody makes a post on Twitter, okay, a sentence, maybe two, and it can ruin their life. That is not a proportionate response. And anyone who sees that and says, oh, it's totally appropriate for us to just mob this person and ruin their life, you are insane. You are absolutely insane. If somebody is outside and they say a single sentence, you are not going to kill them for that sentence. You just don't. It's not a thing you do as a human being. So why are we doing it on the internet? Okay, we're not killing people, but we're getting them fired from their jobs. You know, we're ruining their careers and smearing their reputations for years and years to come. You're doing unimaginable amounts of damage to these faceless entities. And the worst part of it, right, is that you're doing it based on something that you interpreted. 90% of the thing that you got from what they said is you. You're not mad at them. You're mad at you. You're mad at yourself. Your own imagined, generated idea of whatever was said. That's the problem with social media. There is nothing to give you the context of what this person is saying, and there is nothing for you to give context back. There's no communication. It's just words on a screen and no human interaction, and now we're doing it. We're doing it thousands and thousands of times a day. We're doing it all day long. We find ourselves just glued to our phone screens, looking for that next little bit of feedback, that next little hit of dopamine, that little positive feedback that we get from interacting with something that was designed by a company who hired, presumably, a psychologist or somebody well-researched into human behavior to make that thing addictive. I mean, that's literally what Facebook is. That's what Twitter is. That's what social media is. It's designed to get you to look at your screen on your phone for as long as possible. They do not care if it takes over your life, because for them, it makes them money. Now, look, are there benefits to social media? Yes, there's lots of good things that have come from it. Okay, it's incredible to be in such a widely connected society out there in the world, but it's insane to me that nobody seems to see this, that nobody's paying attention to this idea. Like, there is much, much more to the communication that we're using, and we're missing it. We're missing all of it. And the problem is that we've been doing this for so long that now we've trained ourselves to just feel outrage all the time. Everyone is outraged all the time. So when I say, now you see people talking face to face, and they're just talking past each other, it's because they're talking to a screen. They've learned to create a caricature of the person they're speaking to and to speak to that thing. We've trained ourselves to do this in our everyday social interactions. And we've done it using social media. It is cancer. It is cancer for the brain. It is killing us. And it will ruin society if we don't pay attention to this. So this is, I guess, the whole point that I'm making. Turn off your goddamn phone. Get off of Facebook. Get off of Twitter. Just put it down for a day. Go find another human being and sit down. Look them in the eyes and have a conversation. Listen to them very closely. Listen to them as though they were telling you, there's a crocodile under your chair and you shouldn't move very quickly because he's very hungry. Listen to them like they're telling you that. You will be amazed how well that conversation goes. It's going to blow your mind. It'll change your life. Have one good conversation out. Just one conversation. Okay? But put down the social media. Just put it down for a day. And go talk to somebody. Please. And if they say something that upsets you, stop. Restate their opinion, restate their statement to them, and ask them very specifically, is this what you said? and do not move off of that point until they say, yes, that's exactly what I said. Because, trust me, it's going to be a lot harder, right? You saw that Jordan Peterson, Kathy Newman thing where she was like, well, what you're saying is this. She didn't stop, right? She didn't actually restate his opinion. Don't do that. Look at the person, listen to them, and say, okay, here's what I heard. Is that correct or no? If they say no, ask them, where am I wrong? Then listen to them again, then restate their opinion again. Is that correct, yes or no? If that's not what they said, ask them what you got wrong. Then restate it again. If they say, yeah, okay, that's hand grenade close. That's pretty much what I said. Say, okay, stop and think about it for a minute, and then respond to them. Okay? Just try it. Try those two things. I promise you it's going to change a whole lot for you. And I think if more people do that, we'll see a lot of good come from it. But please, God, just do it. That's everything I have to say. I am going to eat this entire loaf of banana bread that my mom sent me in the mail. So thanks for that. I'm going to go eat and sleep. Have a good night.